Alright guys, so I decided to do this video because a lot of you wanted it, and I don't have a lot of videos on my channel where I do makeup on more mature clients, and my mom was willing to let me film this. I was doing her makeup for an event that she had later that day, so I figured why not film it, show you guys what I would do on someone around my mom's age who is in about her mid-50s. My mom has no problem saying her age. She's actually very proud of her age. And just a heads up, I'm basically going to be gassing my mom up this whole video because my mom's skin is so good, and I tell her all the time that she looks so good for her age. So shout out and kudos to my mom and her Mary Kay products, because that is what she has used and been a part of for most of her career, which is going on, I believe, 30 years or so. So shout out to that, and genetics, hopefully, you know, I'll be lucky too. Anyways, so we're starting off with the eyes like I normally do with everyone, even myself. You guys seen that. That is nothing new. I am using the Tarte Shape Tape to prime the eyelid with my MAC 252. I am creating a sharp baseline underneath the brow. So thing is here, my mom likes a sharp brow. My mom likes a full brow. She is all about the brow. Not all women in this age range are comfortable with that, and if they aren't, you know, you do want to ask them, and you kind of get a vibe for what their makeup, you know, how they like for it to look. If they aren't about that sharp brow, just apply the concealer all over the lid. Don't worry about creating that strong baseline. Just get the primer on the lid to help prime the under eye. So now I am taking a matte taupe shadow with a Morphe fluffy brush. I'm using the Tarte, that Heat palette. We're doing like a soft smoky eye. My mom really loves smoky eye. She loves like having her eyes be pretty dark and dramatic. I'm not going to go too dark because it is a daytime event that she was going to, but you know, we just kind of wanted to play around with some smokiness. And I'm applying this all over the lid, all in the crease, basically up into the crease, and just using the brush to buff everything out and blend. It is important with clients around this age to really utilize your other hand here, and if you need to, do not be afraid to kind of raise their brow with your thumb. Be very gentle though, but just so you can make sure you are getting into all crevices. My mom's eye is still pretty lifted, but you know, they're even just some younger clients. I mean, you do want to make sure you are pulling the eyelid up just to make sure you are getting in every spot and color and everywhere. So taking a much darker brown, still matte, I blended that into the lower part of her eyelid up into the crease. Now I am taking a black gel liner to lightly line the root of her upper lashes. This is the Maybelline gel liner. I'm just using like a regular liner brush. And what we're going to do with this is kind of play with it. That is why I'm using this eyeliner in particular, because it does give me a little bit of playtime. I am taking a flat definer angled brush, and I am picking up a matte black shadow and pressing that onto the eyeliner, and then I am just smudging it upward. Personally, I love a smudge liner on a more mature client. It does take away a little bit of the stress of creating a perfectly straight line or wing liner on someone whose eyelid isn't as taut as it used to once be, which can be difficult. So it's a great way to kind of get the best of both worlds. After removing the fallout underneath her eye, I am going to be applying a primer. Her skin was already moisturized and had serum, so if you do have a client that has drier skin and they are on the more mature side, it is super important to make sure they are moisturized first, because that's going to just play a big role in how the foundation lays onto the skin. Of course, fine lines may be something that is an issue, so that's where you're going to go with a more pore-filling primer to kind of smooth those out. I already color matched her. I am using the Milani Conceal and Perfect like every time I do my client's makeup, because that is the foundation I have in my kit. I'm applying this first with a flat foundation brush just to get the foundation on evenly and to make sure I am putting an even amount on all areas of the face. I just find that this is a little bit easier to utilize how much foundation I want to use, and it just makes it a little bit faster of a blending process, and to make sure I get a, oh my god, I'm like slurring over my words here. It makes sure I get a more full coverage, if that makes sense. I'm then using a flat top kabuki brush to buff this into my mom's skin. I am using my kind of tapping, pushing motions to make sure I get the foundation really nice and evenly into her pores, into her fine lines, just to create a nice opaque full coverage. She is someone who loves full glam. My mom loves a full coverage foundation. She is not into the sheer stuff, never has been. So for her, it is easy for me to go in with, you know, my usual foundation routine. If you do have someone that wants to stay on the lighter side of things, I highly recommend diluting your foundation with a little bit of moisturizer and doing more of like a tint than anything else. Same thing with concealing and highlighting. I am using the Tarte Shape Tape underneath my mom's eyes. I could use this on pretty much any mature client. One thing that you have to keep in mind is that the highlighting and contouring thing is something that's kind of new to our generation. Not a lot of women, maybe over 50, are used to it, nor do they care for it, and it might make them feel weird to see themselves with it. My mom loves it. She loves to be highlighted and contoured. So I am able to give her that nice bright under eye to really highlight the center points of her face. If your client does not want that look, stick with a concealer that is the same shade as the foundation. Do not even bother with the brightening of the under eye or anything like that. Just make sure you cover any dark circles, discoloration, you know, to hide any of those types of, you know, imperfections. But definitely you don't need to always do highlighting on every single client, because at the end of the day, if it's something that doesn't make them feel comfortable, if it's too like foreign to them, they're going to feel very uncomfortable in their own skin, and that's not the goal here. I did set my mom's under eye lightly with some of the RCMA No Color powder. I did not choose to bake her under eye this time, although she does love to bake, but I wanted to keep things looking not too dry. That's one thing to keep in mind. The baking process may not be the best option for more mature clients, because since it does dry out the skin and it does absorb any excess oils from products, it can make the appearance of fine lines a little bit more prominent. So just keep that in mind. I did lightly set the rest of her face with just some regular face powder. I am using the one from Milk. It's just their loose face powder. And then I'm going to go straight into bronzing. I am using the MAC bronzer that they did in collaboration with Patrick Starr. I believe it's called Give Me Life. And I am just taking this on the hollows of her cheek, along her hairline, and on her jaw. And I'm going to also be using this to contour her nose. This is basically going to be a little bit of a light contour. I am going to deepen it later because I did see that I wanted it to be a little bit more obvious of a contour. But for now, I just did bronzer. I'm also highlighting all the normal points of the face. This is something you need to kind of keep an eye on when doing makeup on a more mature client. If you do notice that maybe they have a really thin upper lip, or they have a lot of wrinkles there on the side of their eye, or even on the forehead above the brow, all the typical places that you would normally highlight, if you see that there is some type of skin texture issue, highlighting is just going to kind of emphasize those. Look for the smoothest parts of their skin and feel free to highlight those. So in most cases, if a client has a lot of fine lines going along the tops of their cheekbones, kind of close to their eye area, I just kind of go a little bit lower to where the apple of their cheek is, because more often than not, we have a little bit more fat there. Our skin is still a little bit more plump there, and we're safe to highlight. And again, highlighting is something that is not a thing that maybe this generation is used to as ours is. So you kind of want to keep in mind not to make them maybe too glowy. I kind of ask them how they like it, if they want to add more, if they feel like it was too much, I go over with powder to kind of tone it down if it's a little too much for them. And then for blush, I apply it like normal. Same thing, kind of just ask their preference, how heavy they like to go on blush. I tend to be a little light-handed, so I always try to make sure I apply as much as they like. I'm now moving straight into the brows, and I am using a pencil today. A lot of you guys ask me pretty often what I use for the brows, and honestly, it's just kind of one, what the client has, like what I'm working with, and two, you know, kind of the look that we're going for. So for my mom, she has really good growth in her brow hair still. I could use powder. I wanted to use a pencil on her though, because I wanted to keep it a little bit on the sharper side. And yeah, I just kind of played around. If someone does not have a lot of hair growth, I would suggest sticking with pomades and pencils as opposed to powders. It's just going to adhere to the skin a lot better. I'm then aligning her waterline with a black gel liner, and I'm basically going to just reverse blend everything to smoke out the bottom lash line. So basically going from the darkest to lightest colors that we use on the top lid, now on the bottom. And like I said earlier, my mom loves a good smoky eye. If your client does too, feel free to line their waterline. If not, then just go ahead and define their lower lash line with some shadows. I am applying mascara before going in with lashes. I will say for this look, the lashes that I use, they're a really good everyday lash. I think this is a great lash for more mature clients. It is one of the double ups from Ardell. I believe it was a double up wispies. My mom loves lashes and she can still pull off a pretty good heavy lash. I kind of wish I would have used a heavier lash on her for this look because I think it just would have made it look a little more glam. But it still looked really pretty, and it was, like I said, a daytime event. So, but again, ask your client how comfortable they are with lashes, and you know, they do sell just kind of little accent lashes. I tend to buy those for those who are really, really, really uncomfortable with eyelashes, or just they don't want anything too large, or they don't want it to bother their eyes. So after applying the lashes, I am doing the same technique that I do on myself because me and my mom both have pretty dark hair. I am going to take a little bit of mascara and just run that through her brows just to kind of darken each strand of hair, and it just creates like a fuller looking, fluffier brow. For a lipstick, I am using a matte liquid lip. This is again another thing you want to be cautious of. My mom hates a super matte feeling lip. She likes the matte look. She doesn't like the matte feel, which I totally get. So this one is from Pixie. It is from their line of matte liquid lipsticks, and honestly, theirs are super comfortable. I highly recommend those for people who don't like that sticky, super dry feeling with a matte lipstick. And then of course just spraying with some setting spray, and this pretty much completes the look.